Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings. This is the C.O.W.S. context of white supremacy. In with pleasure to have Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. to share constructive information about racism, white supremacy. Are you with us, Mr. Fuller?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wanted to speak with you. I've been having several conversations with non-white people, and it resurfaced the term black, and specifically individuals saying that they are black and proud and wouldn't want to be anything other than black, and black is beautiful. I know you have in the code book that, you know, victims of white supremacy, black people, should not be saying that, you know, I'm black and I'm proud. Why did you feel that that should be included in a code book to counter white supremacy?
Well, the question would be asked, why would a person say that? What would be the purpose? Everything is supposed to have a purpose, a constructive purpose. So if you're going to be black and proud, you're being black and proud because of what? And since if you take the words literally, I'm black and I'm proud, meaning, I guess, I'm proud to be black, then what does that mean? Because the person who is black had nothing to do with being black. So being proud of something you had nothing to do with, what does that mean? What is it supposed to mean? What type of progress is that supposed to indicate? You are what you are. Now, it's what you do that's supposed to be focused on. Because the whole purpose for being what you are is to gear you up for what you are doing, or will be doing, or assigned to do, or you think that you have been assigned to do. That's the logic. If you follow the logic, that would be the logic. That's like a person saying, I have fingers and I'm proud to have fingers. I have ears and I'm proud to have ears. And walk around with a sign all day saying how proud they are to have ears. Well, that could be an activity if you just want to do that and spend your time doing that, but whom are you talking to? And for what reason? What message are you sending? And for what ultimate purpose? So you have fingers, you have ears, you have skin, you can walk, and you say, I'm proud to be a walker, a person that can walk. Well, that's nice. Now what? What's the point of the effort? That's what I'm saying.
Okay. The non-white people that I have heard speak about this, I've heard them say, number one, you know, black people, people who have been classified as black, have done, you know, a lot of things. We have a long, incredible history of being conquerors and great accomplishments, and we want to be proud of our history, the history of black people, and having this pride will help us. Being proud and knowing the history of black people will help us replace white supremacy with justice.
Oh, all you have to do to replace white supremacy with justice is say that that is your mission, and that is to replace white supremacy with justice. And that doesn't have anything to do with anything else. And walking around talking about you being proud that you once were a conqueror, that's nothing to be proud of. No person should be proud to be a conqueror. Going around just stomping on people, that's what the white supremacists do. We don't have to imitate them, and we shouldn't. We should pick out the things that they do that are of constructive value, just like we would with any individual person that we would meet. Just pick out the things that they do that are of constructive value and center on that as a way to use time and energy, because it's all about using time and energy, using the resources that you have, the gifts that you've been given. Eyes, ears, nose, feet, or brain. You use that brain. Say, what's my assignment? Your assignment is to solve problems in the most constructive manner. The compensatory code view is solve problems without making any. Now, that's not always easy. In fact, it takes some thought to do that, to solve problems without making new problems. And you do everything in the most constructive manner. The white supremacists are committed to using all of their skills just to be proud of themselves as white supremacists. That's the ultimate goal. That's not a worthy goal for anybody. Justice is a worthy goal. Correctness is a worthy goal. Peace is a worthy goal. But just to strut around on the earth, I mean, beating yourself on the chest like some type of semi-ignorant animal, talking about how proud you are, just to be you, without doing anything constructive, or with doing a whole lot of other constructive, non-constructive things, doesn't make sense. That's a white supremacist philosophy, and nobody should adopt that.
So it has been your observation, your conclusion that for a non-white person to classify themselves as a black person and to let other people know that they are proud of the fact that they are black and they see a lot of value and purpose behind that, you have not seen where there's a constructive value to claiming that you are a black person and saying, I'm proud to be black. Would that be correct?
Well, they didn't have anything to do with being black. So the question is, why are you proud to be black and you had nothing to do with being black? In fact, you didn't even know you were black until the white supremacists told you that. Because they were making something out of it, I mean, it's going to be to their advantage. And then another thing, there are black people who go around and think that they're accomplishing something by poking fun at white people for being white, which also does not make sense. It is not logical. That's like poking fun at the sky for being the sky, and then calling that a super intelligent project. Spend your life doing that.
I feel like I have heard you give lectures before where you said that suspected racists, they like to see their victims jump up and down and beat themselves on the chest talking about how proud they are to be black, that you have witnessed this and you feel like racists will encourage black people to do this because they know it doesn't mean anything. Is that true?
That's what it's proven to be. A lot of black people who are saying that they're proud to be black and just let it go at that, walking around saying, you know, be black and proud, sing a song about being black and proud. And then you look at all of the other things that they do, and there's no indication of anything. They're acting just like everybody else with their black and proud selves. See, it's what you are doing. Even if you don't have a title, even if you don't have a color, even if you are transparent, I mean, you know, like looking through a glass, it's what you're doing. I don't care what kind of entity you are, what kind of creature you are walking around on the planet. What you do is just look at what that creature does. That's the only thing that counts. In the beginning of the day and at the end. What are you doing? What are you doing? What did you do today? And did you do anything that was of constructive value? And if so, where is the evidence? Well, I hung around the barber shop talking about how black and proud I was. Did you do anything else? No. That's all I need to do. Oh, that's all you need to do. Yeah, and try to get other people to say that they are black and proud. And, I came up with 6 different handshakes. And so we stand here on the corner all day talking about how black and proud we are and the new handshake that I came up with last night. That's different from the handshake we had 3 months ago. This is going to be the new handshake. Well, what about all of this, everything all looking beat up around here? I mean, that vacant lot over there is full of trash and whiskey bottles and all like that, and needles and whatnot. I mean, and all that gunfire you hear down the street and whatnot. What about that? Oh man, see, you got to escape it and put it. You got to internalize. I mean, the spirit, and the spirit of the ancestors, man. That's where it's at. Okay, so you internalize the spirit of the ancestors, and that's where it's at. All right, that's step 1. What's step 2? Well, that's where it's at, man. I mean, you got to be with it. You got to be with what? The spirit of the ancestors, man. You got to understand. I mean, what the the second pyramid's all about, and then that takes care of everything. Oh, that takes care of everything. That's babbling. We need a code that's designed in every area of activity to replace the system of white supremacy with justice. And that does not include walking around all day talking about your new kente cloth hat. There are millions of people that know about kente cloth who are being whipped to a frazzle by the white supremacists. The kente cloth didn't help them at all.
Again, Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Mr. Fuller, I'm just curious. Did you see a lot of this in your time, particularly during the 60s and 70s? Did you see a lot of this activity? And if so, what was the result that you observed amongst black people who were engaged in this sort of behavior, pyramids and the kente cloth, and got to know about, our ancestors and what we did in Africa and blah, blah, blah? What was the result in terms of what these people accomplished that you observed?
The result was, for temporarily, that a lot of black people began to act like they were thinking for a change. That was the initial result. But the white supremacists are great thinkers. See, they can figure out where something is going before it even gets there. This is why they're in the position they're in. So they took a look at it, and it kind of alarmed them. Slogan, black and proud, black power. These slogans, it alarmed the white supremacists for a brief moment. And then when they saw that what black people were going to do is just make a religion out of it, that they could stand around and just talk and feel, what you might call good about themselves, behind prison bars. It's just like wearing tattoos. I mean, you're not doing anything other than that. You're just putting on a tattoo saying, I'm the baddest guy on the block. You put a big sign, across your chest. And they say, oh, They just want theatrics. They don't want any substance. They're good theater people. They love putting on a show. So we'll help them. That's as far as this is going. They don't have a long-range plan or short-range plan. They don't have any details worked out that's going to change anything. They're going to be street corner philosophers. Talking about, brother, stop here. You need to know this. Do you know about King so-and-so? And when he existed 8 trillion years ago, before the beginning of space. And he was a cousin of mine and of yours. And you need to know that. And what he did was this, and what he did was that. And let's go and sip tea and talk about these things so you feel good about yourself. So the person really did say, yeah, I didn't know about those things, the only uncles I knew about, they're all in jail and whatnot, see, so I learned about some uncles that I had, that were much greater than that and did great things. Yeah, that's really fine. I'm down with that, man. That's cool, But see, it didn't hold up because just living off of that won't do it. And in a couple of years, the person who is doing that is strung out on drugs because you become intoxicated with fantasies. Fantasies are no substitute for a boots-on-the-ground code that is followed, that gets results. Cause and effect.
Wow. One thing that you just said I found very interesting. You said that a lot of the individuals who, black people who engage in this behavior, the black and proud, that it made them feel good. And a lot of non-white people, victims of white supremacy, enjoy feeling good. This system makes us feel pretty bad. I have heard individuals say that you sound fatalist. You sound like you're giving the white supremacists all this power and saying that they have all this control and making it sound like hopeless almost, and making it sound like non-white people, black people, are, you say in the book, silly and pitiful. Have you heard that a lot? People saying, that you sound fatal and that when you speak about counter-racism, it does not make them feel good?
I don't hear it because people don't say it, because what they do is just ignore what I'm saying, because that's the easiest thing to do. And then they go somewhere and try to feel good by, eating hamburgers all day, or high-fiving, or just hanging out, or being strung out on drugs, or having marathon sex, and not planning anything beyond that, because that's the easiest route to take. To look at the world the way it really is seems overwhelming. So black people accommodate themselves with trinkets, like primitive people do, and with fantasies of greatness. Usually by just labeling themselves as great already. And they feed each other's egos up to a point in a miserable situation because they don't know what else to do. slaves in the bottom of the ship chained together. And so, in their despair, they turned to ceremonies, rituals, join little gangs or clubs or something like that, and just stand around, mutual admiration society. You my homie. I'm your homie. I've been knowing you for so many years. You've been knowing me for so many years. We hang out together. Hang out together doing what? We just hang, man. Well, hanging for black people is nothing new. And not very progressive. Tribalistic, ritualistic. That's what all the gang signs are about and all like that. I belong to the 12th Street crew. Who are you? The white supremacist said, if it wasn't for me, it wouldn't even be a 12th Street. Now, who are you? In fact, next week, 12th Street won't exist because I'm running bulldozers through this whole place, including your grandmother's house, which is where you're staying because you don't have any other place to go, and you're not going to have any other place to go that I don't build while you're being a big gang leader on 12th Street. All of 12th Street's going to be vacant lots next month. You didn't know that, did you? You're going to be staying with your cousin in another city, wondering how you're going to get another meal. That's the white supremacist level of thinking.
A lot of the things that you have said, commonality seems to be a lack of purpose. Non-white people, victims of white supremacy, doing things, saying things that don't really have a purpose in mind, aren't really going to accomplish something when it's all said and done. Do you think that's a key part of our victimization and something that you've observed amongst non-white people, black people, a lack of purpose?
A lack of the purpose that they should have. Black people do have a purpose, but the purpose comes under, like I put in the book, one of the 4 types of show-offisms. That's the purpose. We think our purpose is to show off. That's why we love to show off. We love to be out in the middle of the street showing off. Any excuse for a parade. Mardi Gras time. That's it. That's all of it. I'm working 3 jobs so I can get this brand new car that they put out so I can drive through this raggedy neighborhood showing off. That's the black mentality. Even in villages, overseas, same thing, forms of showing off. We got some deer meat today. Let's celebrate. They all dance around. We love to keep our feet moving. Just stomping up, kicking up dust. In a non-hostile world, it would be harmless. We'd just be children in the world. Acting like children in the world, and we don't have to have any great goals because what's the point? We got no enemies. So, it's all innocent. So that would work under those circumstances. Doesn't work for us in these circumstances where the entire planet is dominated by white supremacists who are very skillful, who accomplish a lot of things, who burn midnight oil thinking about their next big plan. And they do this constantly, coming out with newer and greater things that all add up to domination. And the people who are being dominated are just thinking about the next party. That's the range of our thinking, no matter how skilled we become, painfully, at things that we have to do. So we'll do those things because we have to do them to survive. But then, once a little pressure is released off of us, we revert back to our primitive state. Children on the playground. Party time. And then the parties, usually, in too many cases, anyway, become destructive. Because there's no reason for the party. If you go to a black party, most of the people are just kind of milling around, looking blank, making small talk, not making any grandiose plans. When the Corleones have a party, oh yes, they have the liquor there, they have all the everything that goes with a party. But they're making plans. And the white supremacists are the Corleones of the universe. They're planning their next big operations. Gangsters on a large scale. They're not just coming together just to come together, which is what black people do. We are all here. Who's here? So-and-so is here. Who else is here? Well, so-and-so is here, and so-and-so is here, and so-and-so is here. But everybody's got to be somewhere. So you're all here. You say, okay, so you're here. And what does that mean? Oh, well, we are here together. Well, what does that mean? Well, it just means we are here together. That's a primitive mind. Anytime you're in proximity to anybody and you did it deliberately, it's supposed to be for a purpose, a constructive purpose that's well thought out. Otherwise, you have no business there because there's no business for being there because there's no business. You don't get together just to get together. That's a primitive mind. In the best of worlds, it wouldn't mean anything. We're in the worst of worlds. Too many people starving, too many people dying, too many people locked up. It's all kinds of work to be done. You don't get together just to get together in the midst of all this misery. But we're on automatic. Pitiful, primitive, stupid, and are silly. That's the way I describe it in the book. And the evidence shows it. Starting with the first one, pitiful. Meaning what? Worthy of pity. Need to be taught something constructive or teach ourselves. Get on another wavelength altogether. That's why the code says no black person should be in contact with anybody except for a constructive purpose. And if you can't think of anything constructive, then be alone all the time until that mind starts working. Because you've been issued one. We just don't use it. We don't think we think that we're supposed to just have bodies. Hurts us to have to think or to choose to think. We got the mind. You use the mind to think. We don't want to use the mind. We just want to, keep our feet moving, keep our hands moving. Just run around the block with our eyes bugged, yelling to the top of our voices. We got voices. We just want to, attract everybody's attention. Okay, so I hear you. I hear you a block away. What are you saying? Well, I don't have to be saying nothing. It's just making noise. We use that expression ourselves. Let's make some noise. Put your hands in there. Our hands always in there. Put your hands in there. That's what the white supremacists say to us. That's where we got that. All right, put your hands in there. Everybody, hands in there. Now put them behind your back. Now get in the car. On the way to the lockup. We don't even know where we pick up these expressions. Bunch of black people with their hands in there. What else is new?
I see a good bit of that, us getting together and not really having a reason for the get together, or us saying things, doing things, don't know where we got it from. I particularly see that with words, and it seems, I suspect, in constructing the code book, it appears to me that you were very precise in the way that you constructed the book, and that all of the words and phrases that you put in the code book are there for a purpose. The title, very purposeful. Each word very meaningful about, why you wrote this book and what the non-white person who's reading it, what they should be getting from this book. I feel like non-white people, particularly black people, a big part of our victimization shows in the way that we use words. We really don't seem to grasp that when you use words, there needs to be a reason why you're using that word. You should understand the reason why you use that term. And I see that a lot amongst non-white people, using words and really not having an understanding or reason why they're using the word, can't explain why they use specific words. Have you observed that a lot in the contact that you've had with victims of white supremacy?
It's a super part of the problem. Because the way you use the words give you a frame of mind of what you think about. Just the way that language is used. Because words guide your thinking. And then the thinking will guide your actions and your speech. Once you get that word formed in your mind, then you'll start thinking about the meaning of the word or the lack of meaning of the word. And lots of words have lack of meaning. Black people have, in their struggle to try to figure out how the world works and not being able to center on it works the way that the white supremacists say that it works, and not centering on that, we have a tendency just to drift off into chaos in the use of words. So we come up with words ourselves that have no meaning, even though they're supposed to have meaning. And even when it seems like they might have meaning, they don't have meaning because we don't give definitions to them. This was happening in the 1960s with, black pride. What does that mean? See, but before then, we had words that didn't even intend to have meanings. It was just supposed to be something that was peculiar to black people. Back in the 1940s, black people would sometimes greet each other with words like shoo-be-doo. Hey, man, shoo-be-doo. Shoo-be-doo. Then the hand shakes. And somebody would say, What does that mean? Oh, shooby-doo, man. Get with it. You know, to oop to school. Now, these are people who are supposed to be intelligent. It's not a plan for finding uranium on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
We're not scientific at all.
Mm-hmm.
Pass by trees, flowers, fields of corn. We don't even see it. The white supremacists go to the bottom of the ocean and study 1 grain of sand. Bring it and put it under a microscope. The black person passes by and say, "What are you doing there, Ralph?" See, I'm studying this grain of sand that I got 8,000 feet from the bottom of the ocean. And what are you studying a grain of sand for? I'm studying it because it's there. And I'm going to find out why it's there. And I'm going to find out everything about it. How it got there, what it does while it was there, what it can be used for by me. To dominate you. That's how my mind works.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how long are you going to study it? As long as it takes to figure out how I can use it to do a job on you. Because it's there, and everything that I look at is going to be serving my purpose. Everything that I hear about, I'm going to investigate it. That's my mission. That's how I go about doing things. What are you doing today? Well, I'm going to see my buddy, and we're going to get with the shooby-doo. And that's why you'll always be subject to me. Goodbye. I got to get back to my work. That's the white supremacist way of thinking. The most powerful way of thinking of any people who have ever appeared on this planet.
I just wanted to make sure everyone caught that. I felt that was extremely important. You feel it is a major part of the problem with regards to why victims of white supremacy, non-white people, have not replaced white supremacy with justice. The fact that we are not precise with our words and do not have reasons for why we use words, can't even explain the reason why we use specific words when we have communication with other individuals.
True.
Outstanding. I wanted to point out, just based on what you just said, I was speaking with a non-white victim of white supremacy. He said he's black male. And I asked him to, explain what he meant when he said black. And I have done this frequently, pretty much every time I have done it. The definition that they give me for what they mean when they use the term black, invariably, everybody on the planet ends up being a black person with the definition that they give, because it generally sounds something close to individuals who can trace their genetic history or family lineage to Africa. And to my knowledge, white people have said for a long, long time, everybody, all human beings can trace their lineage to Africa. And I'll point this out, and they'll say yes. So I'll say, by your definition, everybody's black. And pretty much everyone will concede, yeah, but. And the last time the person said but, they said, but being black is about black culture and black identity and black pride. Going to the black barbershop and the black mortician and the black bar and the black church. And I just thought about the things that they listed off, and I said, well, the black barbershop and the black bar, the black church. These are things white people either don't want to do or have allowed us to do in the system of white supremacy. I was just noting things that they did not mention. They did not say go to the black bank or the black casino or the black stock market. I did not hear any of those things listed. It was the black barbershop, the black beauty parlor, the black church, the black mortician. Do you think that's pretty much how we have defined being black? These are things that black people are supposed to do. Generally, things white people have allowed us to do. This is what a black person does. These handful of things over here is what makes you black. Doing this handful of things over here makes you black. Does that seem to be the way that we're thinking about this, according to what you've seen?
All of everything that black people do is just a reaction to white supremacy, and a pretty pitiful reaction at that. That's why I use the word pitiful. Worthy of pity.
Wow.
The black church, the black barbershop, the black mortician. White people don't want to be handling dead black people. They don't want much be handling live ones, except to put them in chains and have them do their bidding and whatnot. A dead black person? No, you bury your own. You know, this is a bunch of mess. This is a bunch of junk. Don't bring this stuff in here. You know, go somewhere and have your little rituals over there on the other side of town. Hey, you know, black people who are alive are dead. I mean, you know, as far as we're concerned, they're dead in the head. When their bodies stop moving, I mean, what good are they except for fertilizer? But get them out of here. You know, we don't need them. The black church talking about their souls and whatnot, we're not interested in their souls. As far as we're concerned, they don't have any. And even if they have some, they ain't worth nothing. So let them have their little churches over there on the other side of the tracks. We'll help them. They can clap their hands and sing and do whatever it is they want to do, buck dance. Give themselves titles among themselves. We don't want to be a part of that. They wouldn't even be doing that if we didn't give it to them. What do they know? What can they teach us? Nothing. They say, well, we're getting in touch with the Lord. Say, well, you do that on your own time, not on mine. Because we don't need your Lord. We already got it. That's why we don't come to your churches. We got our own idea. And black people brag about having the black church. That's what we call it. Don't even call it a Christian church. Call it the black church. But then we say the black church is to get us to Christ. Okay? But when you look around in these churches every Sunday, you don't see a lot of white people flocking there. So what is this, a second-hand church? How come the white people are not flocking here? I mean, if we all that great, how come they are not busting the doors down, following our brand of Christianity? No, because they don't need it, that's why. So your brand is second-hand anyway. You wouldn't even have a brand. We didn't set it up for you. With your ignorant selves. So you're trying to find Jesus. We already got him.
I did also want to point out, unless I've been misinformed, for a long time, white supremacists in this area of the world didn't even want to be buried next to non-white people. They had a separate plot of land.
They had separate cemeteries, and they have refused burial in many cemeteries of black people. You say, we don't bury black people here. We don't want black people here in this neighborhood, not even dead ones, under the ground. They ain't even good for fertilizer.
Yeah.
We have to understand what we are up against, what we're dealing with, the kind of world we are in, the kind of world that's been introduced to us. The world that was set up before we were born. those of us who are here now. We have to understand that world, or we should rather. That's our assignment. People talking about black studies. For years I was saying we don't need black studies. We need white studies. We need to study the thing that dominates us, how they operate. This is how you get things done the way that they ought to be done. Not standing all day looking at yourself in the mirror. That's not accomplishing anything.
You were talking about the importance of non-white people, victims of white supremacy, getting a better understanding of the world in which we live that is dominated by the system of white supremacy. I have spoken with many non-white people, victims, and a lot of them will admit, yes, we're in a system of racism, yes. But they'll say, well, Mr. Fuller, he means well, but what are his credentials to talk about white supremacy and to say all these things, to talk about how they dominate all areas of people activity? What are his credentials? Where did he go to school? What degree does he have to come out and say all these things and write a book? I haven't seen where he's not a doctor. He doesn't have a PhD from this place or that place. Where does he come out, making all these claims and statements about white supremacy? What would your response to that be?
Evidence. What I'm saying is either true or false.
Mm-hmm.
There is no school that teaches you what to do about white supremacy. You don't get a graduate course in that. And anything that they have set up like that, first thing you ask is who set this up? And nobody has set up a school that tells anybody what to do about white supremacy, because white supremacy still exists. So just talking about it is not necessarily doing something about it until you see the effects. The system of white supremacy is in place. There is no university in the system of white supremacy that tells you how to eliminate white supremacy. The only degree you're going to get under the system of white supremacy if you're black is the third degree. Who's going to teach you? Where are you going to get it? You're going to have to teach yourself. You give yourself a degree. And you don't graduate until white supremacy has been replaced with the system of justice. That's when you say you have graduated. That's when you say that you now have some kind of title other than victim. Because otherwise, that's the only title you got. I don't care what they tell you about the title that you have. Why would the white supremacists give you a title in eliminating white supremacy without laughing at you? The white supremacists will tell a black person, oh, you're an expert on racism, when they're the experts, because they're the ones who practice it. The non-white people are victims of it. So the only title you have is victim. That's why I have it on the cover of the book. My credentials is that I'm a victim of white supremacy. So I know something about being a victim, just like every other non-white person on the planet who is semi-conscious. If you know that white supremacy exists, then you know that you're a victim of it. And that's the only title you have. You don't have no other title. Slaves don't have titles except the ones they give each other, and except the ones that, if the racists want to fool them, they'll slap titles on you. Come on in here, boy. How many titles you want today? Oh, how many do you have? Well, you gave me 3 the last time. Oh, well now. Hey, I'm going to be real generous today. I'm going to give you 10. Man, that should really blow your mind. Now get back in that ditch with your ignorant self. And your new titles. Put them on a sign, hang them around your neck. Be proud. But you'll still be doing what I say. And you figure out how to get out from under that title.
Wow. I also wanted to point out, I think I've heard you say this many times, that no non-white person, including Neely Fuller Jr., is an expert on racism. The only experts on racism are the racist white supremacists themselves. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All the evidence shows that. The people who are doing what they're doing, they're experts. If I'm flying the airplane and everybody else is trying to find out how to fly, it means I'm the expert.
Again, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. You were just saying that the racist white supremacists, they will hand out titles, degrees, what have you, to their victims. And, you know, a lot of us get fascinated by that piece of paper or the title, and it makes us feel good, as we were talking about earlier. Do you think one of the strategies that racists use is to give titles or degrees to non-white people and to make it seem like they are leaders or they are in charge of something to further confuse non-white people?
Absolutely, and they do it even at the what we call the lowest level. They'll tell you that you are now a high school graduate. You say, well, how am I a high school graduate? Because I said so, and here's a piece of paper that I made out 15 minutes ago, and I put your name on it, and I'm giving it to you. Because I'm the one who determines what people know and what they don't know. I'm the God here. So I'm saying that you know these things. And so you take the piece of paper and you look at it and you say, now, okay, that's nice. This sure is pretty. You know, it looks good. Got my name on it, too. Say, okay, I gave you the piece of paper saying that you now have a degree of knowledge that I have given you. And I put your name on it that I have given you. And you say, okay, now what can I do with this? I'll talk to you about that later. Well, what do I do in the meantime? Just try to stay out of trouble. That I'm going to see to it that you get in. But you go over there to this building or that building and get in line, and we might have something for you. Depends on how I feel by the time you get there. By the time you get over there in my brother's place. Because you can't do nothing with that piece of paper except what we say that you will do with it. And you ought to know that by now, since we orchestrate everything that you do. So when black people start talking about, well, I mean, where did Neely Fuller get his degree in fighting racism? You tell them that he doesn't have one, and nobody else has either.
Wow.
nobody has replaced the system of white supremacy with anything.
Wow. Again, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., I just thinking.
Has this been recorded?
Oh yes, and I will definitely make work on getting you a copy of this as soon as possible. In fact, have you received the copies of the previous programs that you?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
right.
Outstanding. They were working and everything?
Well, I haven't run a test on them, anything, not yet. But
okay.
Right.
Okay.
But the reason I want them basically is because I like to critique what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
And I like to correct my errors.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't do the job that I need to be doing, and proof of that is the system of racism still exists. Because that's the only criteria.
Right.
When people start talking about their degrees in fighting racism, you measure it by one thing. You don't get paid for yardage. Does racism still exist? And if the answer is yes, then you haven't even gotten started. Neely Fuller or nobody else. Because the criteria is it's not supposed to exist. This is not like being a running back on a football field. You don't get paid for yardage. What does it say on the scoreboard? Did you win the Super Bowl? That's the only thing that counts here, mister. Otherwise, all of that training and running up and down and jumping up in there and high-fiving in the end zone counted for nothing. This is all Super Bowl because you're dealing with super people. Only thing, but you know, is it either is or it isn't. Nothing in between. Yeah, but I fought the good fight. Don't count for nothing. It's just like you haven't done anything at all. This is serious business. That's the only way to look at it. So high-fiving in the black barber shop on a Saturday won't cut it.
Wow. I did want to ask, though, because you said in your book that, and you said it on the program again today, that the thing that would best describe black people is silly, stupid, and pitiful, victims of white supremacy. Do you think that most black people understand that white people control all of their activities every day of their lives? Do you think black people really, that most black people understand that?
The answer is no. Don't have a clue. Most black people on the planet have absolutely no clue that this is what's going on. None. Zero. Zilch. This is why I put that slogan, that quote, in the front of the book. If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will confuse you. And black people are the most confused people on the planet. Confused about everything. We're looking at this world around us and we're totally confused. Because that world is made by the white supremacists. And they are the greatest confusers on the planet. They are masters of confusion. How else can you control people over a long period of time without confusing them? It's an absolute must. Otherwise, you have to stand over each individual with a gun all day. The white supremacists don't do that. They stand over them with a gun every now and then. But on a day-to-day basis, they got everybody on automatic. Robots.
I've heard this this statement. I've heard it quite a few times. I've had different guests on this program, white people, mostly white people, but white people and non-white people share their views on racism. And I've heard several folks say that you have racism without racists. What is your view on that statement, racism without racists?
I don't know. I'd have to ask the person that made the statement. It's not logical to me. You can't have racism without racists.
Why is that?
Because you have to have, in other words, you can't have an airplane without having an airplane. Or you have to have air in order to have an airplane. Or you have to have a plane on the air. That's like having a wheat field without having wheat. I don't understand the concept. That would have to be explained by the person who made the statement. That's another part of codification. When people make statements, racism without racists, then the person who made the statement should be able to explain the statement.
Right. Wow. But you said it doesn't, because I've heard a lot of people say this.
I don't know what it means because I didn't make the statement.
Right.
And when the statement is made, I would have to ask for an explanation if I was interested in an explanation for the statement.
Right. But for you do think in the system of white supremacy, as long as we have racism, white supremacy, you've got some racist white supremacists who are doing it.
You have to have a white supremacist in order to practice white supremacy. I mean, to do otherwise is like I said. It's like saying having scrambled eggs without having eggs. What kind of sense does that make?
And I've heard that statement. Like I said, a lot of times. It's been more than 2 or 3 people who have said that to me. That we have structural racism, systemic racism, all these things that put the problem everywhere except on a white person who is practicing racism.
Oh, now I understand the concept. But the races are there, but they're just not recognized. That's the only way that I can look at that. You're looking at them, but you don't see them. And that is true, because that's under the refinement of racism. A refined racist, you have racism being practiced, but nobody can find them. But because you don't find them doesn't say that they're not there. Because you're looking right at them, but you don't see them. Because they can always say, like most of them do in this day and time, I'm not a racist. So you say, yeah, but racism is being practiced. I know that racism exists because I can feel it. I can feel the effects of it. I see the effects of it. I know that they're somewhere around here. And the racist will say, yeah, I think you're right about that. Now, I'd like to know who they are myself. You're looking right at him. You're scratching your head, and he's scratching his. And he's winking at his other racist buddy while he's doing it. Saying, these niggas are so dumb.
I have heard people say things like, well, there is systemic racism. You have racist results, but there are no white people who are, they don't hate non-white people. They, have lots of non-white people around. These things are just happening. There are no white people who have any sort of dislike or animosity for non-white people. That's just not true. They're just systems that have been in place for a long time, laws and rules that have been in place for a long time that produce racist results.
Absolutely. They are correct,
Mm.
depending on whether or not you want to use that perspective.
Mm.
Because that perspective is the same as the slave ship. The white sailor on the slave ship can very easily come below deck and say, hey, I'm just a sailor. You know, you say, well, what is your job? Most of the time I'm up there swabbing the deck, and I don't enjoy it either. And sometimes I'm up in the crow's nest during the storms, trying to watch out for the rocks, trying to see the direction that the ship is going in, make sure we don't run into something, or trying to spot any kind of danger. And it is cold up there, and it's raining. And most of the time I'm up there, I don't have anything to eat. I stay up there for days on end. I do not like being a sailor. I do not like smelling you people every day. This is a terrible situation. My life is miserable. Not only that, I don't even like the captain. Just like y'all don't. I don't like him either. But I try to do my job, try to make it the best way I can. I guess just like you all do down here. I know y'all eat rotten food. I do too. And then when he goes back up on deck, the black people say, that dude's all right. He understands. See, we're all part of the system. But the thing about it, when he gets to dock, and even while he's on the ship, he's helping run the ship. We're helping run the ship by being slaves on the ship. Sometimes we can't tell the difference where the line is drawn.
Mm.
See, we all huddle together and we all miserable and whatnot, and we haven't had anything to eat, haven't had a bath. It's terrible. But the captain of the slave ship can say the same thing. So you people think you got it bad? Suppose you were the master of this ship and had the headaches that I have to put up with, along with listening to you all moaning and groaning. I can't get any sleep. I'm the one who has to chart the course. I'm the one who has to keep the other sailors in line. See to it that we have enough whips on hand for them to come down here and whip you with. Sometimes whips are hard to get. Sometimes the chains are rusty. You don't have to check on them to see if they're working. I have to send people down here to do that. I got a chain master. I'm paying him good money just to keep the chains in order. Not only that, he's shiftless. He doesn't do a good job. I got to keep watch on him all the time. Usually I find him somewhere asleep. He's supposed to be checking the chains. It's hard being a slave master. I know you say that it's hard being a slave. Well, it's hard being a slave master too. But it's all a matter of attitude. If you all adjust to being slaves, I guess I can adjust to being slave master. That's the way the world is. Sorry about that. But I learned to enjoy it, just like you should learn to enjoy being slaves. We're going to stop at another port in about a month, and I'll see if I can pick up a couple of tamarines. And you all can entertain yourselves down here. I'll do my best. I can't guarantee it. This island that we're going to don't have no Negroes, so they might not have any stock of tamarines. Y'all don't know anything about tamarines, but after you rattle them a few times, I mean, maybe that'll keep you entertained. Can't promise you, but I'll do my best. I like to think of myself as a beneficent captain. Now, we will pick up some extra food, so you'll do a little better than you've been doing. But it's hard being a captain of a slave ship. I'll tell you that. It ain't easy. My navigator fell overboard last month, so I got to do all the navigating, too. It's rough out here in the South Atlantic. So some black people look at it from the captain's view and resign themselves to it without keeping in mind, wait a minute, it's not supposed to be no slave trade at all. He's running a con game on us. We all supposed to be brothers working together. Nobody whipping nobody. This ain't necessary. Yeah, life is hard, but we can work out a better deal than this.
Wow. Again, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
All right, sir.
I've heard this repeatedly. And the thing that really sticks out for me is that I hear people say, well, you have racism without racists. I never hear anyone say that we got a lot of crime but no criminals, or we got a lot of terrorism, no terrorists. I never hear anyone say that. Whenever they are talking about crime or terrorists, they make sure they attach it to a person. They make sure that everybody knows there are people at the end of the day who are responsible for crime and or terrorism.
There's always a cause.
Racism is the only thing that seems to happen where you can't seem to make any person accountable or responsible for the racism, white supremacy that happens worldwide, even though everyone seems to be okay acknowledging it exists. Can't quite put a finger on the person or people who are responsible for the racism.
Well, the code takes the position that any white person on the planet, anywhere, who is able to be a racist probably is one. So the title for that person is racist suspect. If the person is able to be one, the person probably is one. That doesn't say that the person is one, because you suspect that the person is one. See, that doesn't say that the person is one. But the safest and the logical position to take any system of racism is if the person is classified as white and functioning as white, there should be a suspicion that the person is a white supremacist. If the person is able to be one. Now, a senile person in a wheelchair that doesn't know blue from green, black from white, doesn't know a chair from a table, but the person has white skin and classified as white, that person, logically speaking, should not be a racist suspect, because the person can't tell, can't make judgments. The person doesn't know a spoon from a fork. The person is senile. The person doesn't remember anything. In order to be a white supremacist, you have to have a memory. You have to be able to tell the difference between one thing and another. Otherwise, you can't function as a racist. Now, this would also apply to a white baby who can't discern the difference between one thing and another. You have to be able to discern the difference between one thing or another, one person and another. You have to be able to do that, one color and another, height, size, whether something is round or square, the difference between a hand and a foot. See, so infants and senile people, presumably, are not able to do this. So they're not able to be racist. Racism is a choice. At a certain point in every white person's existence, they have to make a choice as to whether to be a racist or whether not to be. That's a choice. If they make a choice not to be a racist and you're white, it means it's going to get real rough for you real quick. From whom? From the other white people who are racist. Because you're born into that family of racists. You're born into a racist system. So you're required to be a racist. By law, racist law. Now, if you don't want to be one, it's going to show up real quick because your activities are going to show you that you are trying not to be a member of that army. You're born in that army. So now you're rebelling against the army that you're born in. And that will become obvious real quick. And you'll be in big trouble with the other members of the mob.
Right. One of the key things I've noted in conversations on racism, it seems like a lot of non-white people do not understand why it is critically important to ascertain the racial classification of the people that you're talking to, and how serious it is to make sure that you ask if you are talking to a white person. I've even heard white people who will say, well, that's not important. It doesn't matter, if I'm a white person or a non-white person and we're talking about racism. Do you think that is critical information if you're going to have any sort of discussion about racism, white supremacy, to ask whether or not you're talking to a white person or a non-white person?
Absolutely essential. Absolutely essential. People have classifications under the system of white supremacy. That's the first thing you have to get straight. What is your racial classification according to the white supremacists themselves? White, non-white, and by extension, if you're white, are you a white supremacist? Because we're in a system of white supremacy. There's no way to discount that. That's the subject matter. You can't talk about the subject matter that you're talking about without talking about the subject matter that you're talking about.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen that happen repeatedly, and non-white people who I suspect are confused about this really don't grasp why you really got to ask that question.
When you walk into a bank and you're going to make a loan, you want to talk to the loan officer. People have titles. Under the system of racism, people have racist or victim of racism titles. I'm a victim of racism. That's my title. A racist has a title of racist. And, of course, a white person who's not a racist has a title of being a white person who is not a racist. There's a war going on. You have to have distinctions. We're looking out over the valley. Is that the enemy on the other side of the valley, or is that a friend? Is that someone who is out to harm me? Or is it a neutral person, a person who says, I'm not going to harm you, but I'm not going to help you either? Or is it an enemy? Friend, enemy, neutral person? I have to know. I should know. Like in the movie The Hustler about Paul Newman and as a pool shark.
Jackie Gleason.
Yes, and the guy who played the part of Bert, they were having a conversation, he and Fast Eddie Felsen. Fast Eddie Felsen says, it seems like you know everybody, don't you? Said, well, I tried to. Said, I have to know everybody who can help me. Everybody who can hurt me, it pays. Said, I'm a gambler, and I gamble on pool games. I gamble, with cards and all like that. I invest in people. I bankroll people who are like yourself, who is a pool shooter. If you're really good, I gamble my money on you. You may win, you may lose, but I have to know something about you. And I have to know people who can harm me in this business. See, because there are places where you can go where if you're a pool shark, they'll break your fingers. And so I know this guy, Turk, because he broke your fingers. See, it pays to know that Turk breaks people's fingers when they win. So that they can't play pool anymore. So it's important for me to know about people like Turk. So lots of lessons in that movie, The Hustler.
I agree completely. Also about the movie The Hustler, I watched that. That was one of your suggestions. I did watch it, and I wholeheartedly co-sign. Very constructive film. I just wanted to clarify. So you're saying for non-white people, victims of white supremacy, it's a matter of self-defense to ask and to be informed about whether you are talking to or having contact with a white person or a non-white person. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And why should a white person deny that they are white when they are talking about racism? When they don't deny that they are white when they're talking about something else? Why does it become important not to be white when you're talking about racism? But it's important to let people know definitely that you're white when it comes to anything else. Applying for a job.
Do you think that discrepancy would suggest that there is something to being a white person in a system of racism, white supremacy?
There's a whole lot to it. And any white person who will tell you the truth will tell you that. Being a white person in a system of white supremacy is better than being black on account of the benefits. Lots of benefits go with that in every area of activity.
Wow. Mr. Fuller, another of the consistent observations that I have made in having discussions about racism, white supremacy, when I speak with a white person, with another non-white person or a group of other non-white people present, one of the things I have noted is that the non-white people have a tendency to try to protect the white person. They will jump in and answer questions for that white person. If you are asking that white person questions and saying, I suspect that you could be a racist, they will really, take offense for that white person. Say, hey, you shouldn't be talking to that white person this way. Have you noticed this sort of behavior? And if so, what is your view on what's motivating the non-white people to behave in that manner?
Well, it depends on the circumstances and whatnot. Sometimes it's just a simple case of a black person trying to show themselves as being even-handed, you might say, decent, etc., etc., and sometimes it's out of fear. Self-preservation. They're letting that white person know, I'm not with him. Because if I'm with him, it ain't no benefit in that. If I'm with you, it is. Very simple. Because everything comes from you. It don't come from him. He's just running his mouth. If I'm going to get paid, I'm going to get paid by you.
Is this something that you come to expect when you have discussions about racism?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have you codified how to deal with that?
Sure.
Okay. Could you share?
Sure. You follow the logic in every situation. So you're not arguing with the person, you're arguing with the logic. And keep that in mind. It's not a personality contest. Because you're discussing the subject. The subject is the thing you concentrate on, not the personalities. You don't get caught up in the personalities. So if the black person says something in the so-called defense of the white person, you just keep asking the logical questions. Problems are solved by asking questions and coming up with correct answers. The black person says, well, I agree with the white person, Say, okay, well, why do you agree with what he's saying or she is saying? I agree because of, okay, because of what, and have them say why they agree. And then you look at what they're agreeing to and see if it's logical. If it's logical, you go with it, because you always go with the logic. And if it's not, you raise questions about that. You say, that appears not to be logical. And I'll tell you why. And then you tell them why. And then you move on, because what you're searching for is the truth. I don't care who's doing the talking. Truth plus justice plus correctness equals peace. That's the equation. First thing you seek is the truth. Don't compromise on that. So that's the only way you can produce a product called justice. Got to start with what is first. You don't want to make things up. Say things that are not true. That's what the racists do.
Wow. I wanted to. I also want to make sure I got to some of the current events. Have you been are you aware of what happened with the shooting in Washington State of the 4 enforcement officials?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a view on that? Because they reported that it was a black male, and at this point they had just reported recently that the black male was shot by another enforcement official. The suspect in the case was shot. Do you have a view on what you have observed or what you've seen with that whole incident, and how you think that will play out in the system of white supremacy?
Well, it's a result of the system of racism. I mean, the fact that he's out there doing what he's doing in the first place. That's what racism produces. Racism produces 2 types of black people, monsters and monstrosities. I'm a monstrosity. Based on what? What do I mean by a monstrosity? The fact that I'm having this conversation on race in 2009, right now. That makes me a monstrosity right there. A weird person, because I shouldn't be doing this. I should be somewhere growing asparagus. Not talking about racism, because racism should not exist. See, and the person that you're talking about, classified as non-white, allegedly shot 4 people, whether they're white or non-white. He shot 4 people. Under what system? Under the system of racism. He's raised under that system. So you can expect monster behavior, killing. The system produces that type of individual among white people and non-white people, because violence and killing is glorified in the system of white supremacy. So as long as you have the system of white supremacy, you can expect this type of behavior. They're not trying to correct it. They just want to be in control of it because they enjoy it. They don't want a world in which people don't kill each other. That's a part of the enjoyment in the system of racism. This is why it's glorified in all the books. Killing. So it should be expected. That's what I say about it. It shouldn't happen, but it should be expected. And again, and again, and again, and again. As long as you have a system that's designed to glorify mistreatment and glorify violence and death. Walk into a bookstore, they got more books on death than they got on anything. They usually call them novels, thrillers. Got all kinds of titles for them. Make movies glorifying death. You got a movie out now. I mean, it has to do with vampires or something. Killing people, creeping around, sneaking up on them, being deceptive, and then reach out and grab them. Suck their blood until they're dead. And ooh and ah, and this is wonderful. That's insane. Mass insanity. Make a movie about growing peaches.
And you said this sort of behavior, the blackmail that is suspected in this shooting, this sort of behavior is to be expected as long as the system of white supremacy exists. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's designed to produce monsters and monstrosities, people who have that type of behavior. The system. You take a young child and start him off with that type of mentality. We've got Christmas coming up. Now, I remember when I was very young, what I wanted for Christmas, I wanted a train, yeah, and some other things, but mostly what I would look for under the Christmas tree was a rifle, or better still, a toy .45 revolver, like the cowboys had. So I could run around on Christmas morning and run around the house saying, bang, bang, you're dead. That itself says it all. Now, you're supposed to be celebrating the birth of Jesus, a person, presumably, of peace. But what am I doing? Did I get a Red Ryder rifle, a BB gun, designed to shoot people, kill people, fall down, you're dead? That's the white supremacist culture. So later on, you don't want a BB gun. You want a 9mm, AK-47. Overseas, even as we speak now, there are people going through villages, decimating people. 12-year-olds with an AK-47, killing everybody in the village. Women running through the brush with their babies in their arms. You shoot them on the run, all of them. Why? Because somebody gave me a rifle and told me that's what I should do.
the other top story that I'm seeing right now is the incident with Mr. Tiger Woods and his accident and the rumors and allegations about his white wife. Have you seen that? And if so, did you have a view on what has transpired with Mr. Woods?
Here again, whatever it is, under the system of racism, the code response is to be expected. Seems to be some kind of conflict of some type. It seems to be some type of conflict that resulted in a car crash. And people are saying this about it and saying that about it, but it's making what is called newsworthy situations. And it's about some type of conflict, presumably. And the racists believe in non-white people being involved in conflict to their detriment. Always keep that going, and they're not happy when everything is just running smooth. That's not the racist agenda. Got to get some stuff started. If some stuff gets started, keep it going. As long as it is non-constructive to non-white people. Keep it going. That's the racist philosophy of life. That's what they call living. Our job is to say enough already and come up with a code that will put a stop to it.
Wow.
First of all, by revealing it. That this is what the racists are doing. This is their agenda. This is what they teach everybody else to do.
Do you think it would be accurate to say that for non-white people under the system of white supremacy, engaging in sexual intercourse with a white person is likely to increase the amount of conflict that you experience? Do you think that's a true statement based on evidence?
It increases the amount of confusion first.
Okay.
And then the conflict comes from the confusion.
Okay.
Under the system of white supremacy, black people and white people can only interact with each other in 3 categories: tacky, trashy, terroristic. Doesn't get any better than tacky. It shouldn't be. Under the system of racism, it can't get any better than tacky. Meaning it's just slipshod. It's not well put together. It's not sincere. It's just raggedy. That's what tacky means. Now, if you try to improve on that tackiness, then it becomes trashy. Like black people at a party with white people. It's tacky. I mean, everybody's kind of standoffish. I mean, nobody really knows how to do or what to do and all like that, and everybody's trying to do something. They don't quite know what it is. Okay? Now, if they try to improve on that, then it gets trashy real quick. I mean, people start saying something that's vulgar, something obscene. So it gets real trashy. And then from the trashiness comes the terror. Somebody says something that they shouldn't have said because they had a little too much to drink or snort, and then a fight breaks out. The result is everybody leaves the scene with a real bad feeling. Because the system is designed to produce just that. Tacky, trashy, terroristic. That is the interaction with black people and white people every day, wherever they happen to be. It's going to be one of those categories, a combination of all 3, before the day is over. But it doesn't get any better than tacky. I call it the 3 T's. Tacky, trashy, terroristic. That's it. Anywhere on the planet you are, when black people are in contact with white people. I mean, the laugh, if they're laughing, if all of them are laughing, the laughing is artificial. It's tacky. It's not sincere.
Have you seen these sort of events where white people and non-white people are together? Have you seen these sort of things go down where the people feel like they had a really good time, and this is an example of people getting together to work against racism? Like, we got together, we had a really good time. There were no fights or anything. If it didn't
get trashy and it didn't get terroristic, then at very best it was tacky. Meaning for the most part, people were being phony. That is the major characteristic of tackiness. It's not right down to the gut. It's not that feeling of so-called goodwill and whatnot, right to the gut, right to the core. No, it's tacky. It's all surface. It's all acting. Everybody's acting. That's why even at a meeting, you find black people have a tendency to be the first to start laughing. And then the next thing you know, everything turns out to be a joke. Even when they're talking about racism, if it's black people and white people at the table, next thing you know, somebody's got to start joking or laughing. They do it self-consciously because the conversation looks like it's getting too heated. So you ease away from the truth because of that. And the next thing you know, people are making jokes. Because they don't want to slide into the terroristic part. They can see it coming. So it remains in the tacky mode, which means non-sincerity.
Do you feel like it would be truthful to say that most often when non-white people and white people are communicating, they are not communicating honestly, and that one thing non-white people should work on to be constructive, to replace white supremacy with justice, is to work to overcome their fears and conditioning, to work to speak honestly and accurately when speaking with white people? Do you feel like...
In other words, be able to use logic to find truth and go with the truth every time without deviating, regardless of personal feelings and all like that. And to get that agreed upon to start with. This is not personal. This is business. And we all are going to be searching for the truth. Otherwise, we don't have any business here. Got to start with the truth. Otherwise, we can't get nothing done. Just be going around in a circle like we always do. So we start with the truth of the matter, truth of everybody's faults. Because that's really what we're looking for. Not to praise anybody. This is about finding everybody's faults and how to correct them. Not going to be any praise of anybody here. Get that straight right from the beginning. Because nobody is worthy of it. Nobody here. We got problems. That's all we got. And so if we're going to talk, we talk with the intention of problem solving. Finding the source of the problem and then coming up with a solution. Based on logic. We're not going to sit around here, having congratulations. Or Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so's accomplishments or attitudes or anything else. None of that. I'm not going to spend half the day introducing everybody's credentials. Because nobody's got none sitting at this table.
Wow. One thing I did want to ask you since I had you, you are a veteran. You fought or served in the Korean War. I was just curious if you have any experiences or if you have a view on black veterans, non-white people, victims of white supremacy who have served in the Army or armed forces, and how that has impacted them or how that's victimized them. Is that something that you have a view on or an observation on?
Well, I don't put it in that box. You can, but that's just like saying, how black people are victimized in economics, in education, and entertainment, and in the 9 areas of activity. Black people are being victim. You're a victim, wherever you are. You're being victimized anyway, because you're subject to a system that shouldn't exist.
Right.
The system of white supremacy. It shouldn't exist. What should exist is a system of justice. The system of justice does not exist nowhere on the planet, because you can't have white supremacy and justice on the same planet at the same time.
Yes, sir. Before I didn't want to take up too much of your time this morning, but before I let you go, I did want to get, since it is December, if you could please share your view on if you feel like Christmas is constructive for victims of white supremacy, and or if you feel like the so-called holiday known as Christmas, if you feel like that supports the system of white supremacy.
All systems support white supremacy that are institutionalized. Otherwise, the white supremacists is not going to tolerate them. So what the code says is that black people shouldn't be celebrating anything. We should be working to produce a product called justice. And then after justice is produced, we don't even celebrate that, because that's what we should have had in the beginning. We just be thankful that we were able to pull it off. Because all people, white and non-white, were supposed to be about producing justice, getting things in balance, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. That's what justice is. It doesn't exist nowhere on the planet. But that's what should have been in the beginning.
Yes,
that's
sir.
what we're supposed to be making now.
Yes, sir. You said that all institutionalized systems support white supremacy.
Because white supremacy is the dominant system. That's why.
Yes, sir. Could you share, if you have any, could you share your views on how, specifically how so-called Christmas supports white supremacy?
Well, because, people are out doing things. You're always supporting white supremacy, even if you're doing nothing. But that's the closest thing you can do, or should be doing. And that is, other than trying to help somebody that needs help the most. That's what I mean by having that focus.
Yes, sir.
You don't lose focus on what you should be doing. And that's every day. So you don't have a day to set aside to do that. You do that every minute that you get a chance to do it. And try to do your best not to mistreat anyone. That's it. That's the whole package. People run around gathering up packages and all like that, and busting the door open at sales and whatnot, and trampling on each other. That's crazy. That's artificial. Sometimes stomping each other to death.
Yes, sir.
Trying to buy something that you're going to send to the person that you stomped to death. We need to stop and look at what we are doing and asking the question, does this make sense? And if so, how?
Wow. Again, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
All right, sir.
Could you
so
please,
we'll talk.
Yes, could you
Hello?
share? Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Before you leave, could you share information on how non-white people can get a copy of your book, sir?
Yes. They can call me at 202-484-5461. Or, yes, right, and that's the best way, and then I can give them the details. The book will cost $15, and they can call me anytime they think they can get me, day or night.
Could we get that one more time, just in case they
202-484. 5461. That's 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461. I usually repeat it 3 or 4 times, because nobody has a pencil handy when they need it.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you a ton. As I said, always a pleasure to be able to speak with you to share views on replacing white supremacy with justice. I will get cracking to see if I can get this recorded and get this one mailed to you as well, so you can critique what you said. And hopefully we can have you back on the program to share constructive information about, just so you know the numbers, the last when you were here, the first part of November 13th, about 400 people have listened to that program thus far, and numbers are still climbing. So I'll let you know how many folks have been able to get an opportunity to hear your views. And as I said, hopefully we can have you back on the program again to share constructive information, sir.
All right, sir, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your time, Mr. Fuller.
Sure.
Thank you. There you have it, Mr. Fuller, on the program again, the C.O.W.S. context of white supremacy, Gus T Renegade, and justice. Justice is being constructive right now, so I will pitch for her her email address, justice.asap@yahoo.com, justice.asap@yahoo.com. Hope the program was constructive. Always a treat to be able to have Mr. Fuller on the program, and Dr. Welsing will be here next week. Before I jump the gun, though, we have 2 shows coming up this weekend. One with Professor Dick Lair. He will be here this weekend. We'll also have Professor Matt Ray. Matt Ray will be discussing his book, Not Quite White. Very interesting read. I've been checking it out the past couple days. Looking forward to speaking with him. Dick Lair, his book, The Fence. It is about suspected racist enforcement officials who practiced racism against non-white people. We will be having both of them on the program this weekend, and Dr. Welsing next Friday, December 11th at 12 noon Eastern, 11 p.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific. It'll be next, depending on where you are, either next Friday at noon East Coast or next Friday morning, 9 a.m. West Coast. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing will be making her second trip to the C.O.W.S. Man, hope it was constructive. Gus T Renegade and Justice are in the Pacific Northwest, very, very close to where the 4 white enforcement officials were so-called ambushed over the Thanksgiving weekend. Very, very close. I could walk to where that incident happened at. Very close to where that happened. Also, pretty close to where the other enforcement official was killed just a few weeks ago. So 4 white enforcement officials have been shot and killed in this area in the last 4 to 5 weeks. So I strongly suspect that these incidents will be used to motivate severe acts of racist aggression against non-white people, especially black males, because black males are the suspects in both of these cases. And as I said, the suspect in the shooting that happened over this weekend was just reported that black male suspect was shot and killed last night, sometime early December 1st, I believe, in the early morning hours of December 1st, I believe. But yeah, he has been shot and killed. So I strongly suspect racism will be on the rise in this area. So I don't know. Gus T Renegade and Justice might be we're already in a dangerous spot, but the block might be a little hotter out here as a result of what has taken place. That said, we're going to try and continue to be constructive. I did want to share a thought with the whole incident with Tiger Woods. I strongly suspect that is a phenomenal example of why you should not engage in sexual intercourse with a white woman. I just, all the media attention around that, I was telling someone it looked like there was 9/11 evidence in Mr. Wood's home with the amount of helicopters and reporters there for a fender bender. No other car involved for ostensibly a fender bender. So they are reporting. I do think there's more than what is being reported. I suspect his white wife, suspected racist wife, perhaps initiated some violence against Mr. Woods, and he was attempting to flee the scene and crashed his SUV. I suspect that could have happened. I just know the official reports that she used a golf club to smash the rear window to dislodge him from the vehicle. That just doesn't that doesn't sound very believable. That sounds about as believable as the racism with no racists. I put those on the same page. I just don't know if that's possible. His wife doesn't look like she's on creatine or is spending some serious time in the gym. I'm not sure that she could pull a 180-pound unconscious grown man. I'm using that term lightly just so you can get an image, but a 180-pound unconscious body from a vehicle. That's intense. I mean, whoa. I don't know. I don't know. That doesn't seem feasible to me, but maybe it did happen. At any rate, thank you for tuning in to the broadcast. Make sure you check out Cree 7, her program. She just had a brand new show over the weekend. She's here at Blog Talk Radio. Support her efforts. Please support Back of the Buses blog. The address nonwhitealliance.wordpress.com. nonwhitealliance.wordpress.com. Please check my blog as well. racism-notes.blogspot.com. One more time, racism-notes.blogspot.com. Thank you, everybody who shared feedback, either those who called in or who left messages about Mr. Liam Sheff. He was supposed to be with us on the last program, but I suspect he practiced racism, white supremacy, and specifically, I think some of the people who called in to the program shared the view, and some people who have contacted me since that program and saying that they felt in particular him pointing out that you have so-called tribalism and that his African-American friends get confused about the fact that white people mistreat a lot of other white people. I think that is a standard racist tactic to completely obfuscate the fact that white people have a lot more power than non-white people worldwide, and they inflict a lot more damage on non-white people worldwide than anyone else. White people inflict way more damage on non-white people than on other white people, hands down. That is the system of white supremacy. So I think some non-white people who were listening caught that. I think they caught that Mr. Sheff was attempting to practice racism, I suspect, on the program. And it seems they got some constructive value out of that. I wish we had been able to get his information, but that's racism, white supremacy. That is what racists do. I suspect Mr. Sheff is one, conceal information. We will try to continue the efforts and hopefully continue to, I won't say continue, hopefully this has been constructive, the efforts of the cows, and if it has been, hopefully we'll continue to try to improve and get better in replacing white supremacy with justice. Thank you for tuning into the broadcast. Thank the non-white people who have provided some assistance to Gus T Renegade. Has been most appreciative. Thank you 1,000 times, victims of white supremacy who have assisted Mr. Gus T Renegade. I appreciate the assistance wholeheartedly. We will be back just in a few days. Justice will be here. Gus T Renegade will be here. The system of white supremacy will definitely be here. Matt Ray and Professor Dick Lair coming up for the weekend. Thank you all. We'll be back soon, and hope you are doing something constructive to replace white supremacy with justice. immediately. We'll catch you next broadcast. Signing out.